Horses don't act out because they're trying to make our lives harder or because they're trying to come at us. Humans are always to blame when it comes to horse behavior. And unfortunately, the horse is the one that has to actually take the accountability to make the change. For every one bad experience a horse has had, it takes 100 good experiences to rewrite that. I think this is where we get into trouble with Black Beauty and Heartland and Secretariat and Racing Stripes, right? TV and movies and books and all these things have told us that if we just love a horse enough that they'll come around, and that is just not the case. And so instead, what I think is a much better avenue is to see if we can get to the bottom of why did this horse pick up this behavior in the first place. Two beliefs that are absolutely critical and pivotal to my entire philosophy around horses and training and horsemanship are number one, that there's no such thing as a problem horse, and number two, that nothing is ever the horse's fault. However, I think that these can also be very easily misconstrued. And so today I really want to dive into those and talk about what those really mean to me and why I think those are so important. So, first things first, I think when we think about problem horses, we think about horses that bite, strike, kick, buck, rear, run you over, pull back. What else do we have? Spin, bolt. I think I got most of them there. Um, and all of those behaviors are absolutely problematic and absolutely are dangerous. The problem, I think, here and why I push so hard back against the label and title of problem horse is that once a horse has been labeled a problem horse or unpredictable or explosive or dangerous, it can be really hard to undo that. And I think for me, even below this belief, more critical than this belief that there are no problem horses is that all behavior is some kind of communication. And so, let's take the horse that pulls back, for example. Very rarely is there a horse that pulls back because they are trying to be difficult or because they're trying to be dangerous or because they like to hurt themselves, right? Generally, when a horse pulls back, it's because to them, the consequence of pulling back and maybe having extra pressure on their pull or even, I don't know, breaking their halter or whatever that may be, is less threatening to them than something else that's more threatening to them. So whether that's claustrophobia or a fear of getting into trouble or they spook at something, right? So whatever that may be, the horse is more afraid of the outcome of what would happen if they don't pull back than if they pull back and maybe risk some self-harm in the process. And then let's take another one, let's take one that's maybe labeled as more aggressive. So a horse that kicks, right? I think very often horses that kick are labeled as aggressive or dangerous when in reality that kicking stemmed from a need to protect themselves from something. So maybe they had pain or an ulcer or I don't know, somebody was really hard on them one time and they thought that if they kick, now that's become a tool for them that they believe is helping them and serving them in some way. So the very first thing you need to understand is that horses don't act out in aggression or dangerous ways or problematic ways because they're trying to make our lives harder or because they're trying to come at us. Horses do that as a means of self-protection. Horses at their most fundamental level are prey animals. And so everything that they do is motivated by their fight or flight or their desire for survival. They go toward safety and away from threats, right? And so all of these behaviors generally have stemmed from at some point the horse's need to protect themselves. Now, whether or not the horse needs to protect himself right now isn't really relevant in the horse's mind, right? But it is everything to us, right? So a horse that has learned these tools maybe now is no longer in pain, but they still find these tools, these behavioral patterns to be helpful and effective for them in some way. So an example of this is actually, if you watch a couple weeks ago, I posted a video about a horse that's really grouchy about being saddled. And I started by saying, it's really important that you know that this horse is not in current pain. However, we don't have a thorough history on this horse. He's from a rescue, so we don't know. He may have been in pain at some point in his life, and he learned that being grouchy at the tie rail is a way to communicate that pain and to protect himself from being in pain. He is not associating that now he's no longer in pain and that behavioral pattern isn't serving him anymore. And so that's our job to come in and teach him that. So when I say nothing is ever the horse's fault, I tend to get a lot of flack for this, but I deny it. I do think it's a really important one to talk about, because I'm not saying that horses don't do bad things, or that they don't need to be accountable for their behaviors, or that we don't need to hold them to a higher standard. What I'm saying is that all of these behaviors come from something that some human did to them at some point in their life, right? Doesn't mean it's happening to them right now anymore. Doesn't mean it's even helping or working for them anymore, but that at some point in their life, this horse learned this behavior to protect themselves from something that a human did. Okay. So that's what I mean by that. Now, what I want to be really clear about is that we don't have to put up with those behaviors anymore, right? And where I think a lot of horses get into trouble is when they end up in a place where somebody loves them unconditionally and allows them to continue doing these dangerous behaviors that no longer serve the horse and definitely don't serve the people, and put everybody in danger. And then this horse really hurts somebody, or really causes problems. And then this horse ends up in bad places that we won't even mention here. And so instead, what I think is a much better avenue is to see if we can get to the bottom of, why did this horse pick up this behavior in the first place? Knowing that it's not the horse just doing it out of malintent, or because they're like difficult or whatever else, but really because this horse picked up this behavior for a reason somewhere in its past. So let's start there. Let's start with understanding why this horse has picked up this behavior. And then let's find a way to communicate to the horse that this behavior no longer works for you, but this other behavior is more desirable. So what we're going to start doing is, through very careful, thoughtful, safe, and intentional training practices that focus on the horse being calm and relaxed and feeling safe, we're going to teach this horse that those behaviors no longer get them what they want, right? We're going to make those behaviors feel less appealing to the horse, while simultaneously making the desired behavior feel more appealing, or more effective for the horse's end goal. So this is where I can't necessarily go into all of this in one video, and this is very, very case by case, but this is why I am so against one-size-fits-all training programs, because I think we really need to be able to look at each individual horse and figure out why that horse is reacting the way that they are, and what we need to do for that horse to help them to be relaxed and calm and feel safe, so that they can let go of these behaviors that they have found protect them, and adapt these other behaviors that actually ultimately protect us and give the horse a better life. So that was very long-winded, but I think that the main thing that I really want to say here is that horses often get labeled as problem horses, explosive, dangerous, unpredictable, aggressive, when really what that horse is terrified. And if we can first rule out pain, physical pain, and then we can rule out psychological pain. Then we can use very careful, thoughtful, intentional training practices to teach that horse different behaviors. Now, what kind of training practices am I talking about? In all honesty, it really doesn't matter. I use all of them. I pull from classical dressage, I pull from natural horsemanship, I pull from more kind of old school cowboy methods, I pull from groundwork, I pull from clicker training and positive reinforcement. And it really depends on each individual horse and what that horse needs in that moment. And I have like a big mishmash of all of them. The big thing is, though, is that we want to reinforce for the horse that training and learning a new thing is safe. And we want to foster a sense of curiosity, while also really encouraging the horse to learn safer behaviors and unlearn the dangerous ones. And so this is where it really gets tricky, and it's really important to work with a skilled professional. This is not the kind of thing I really have a hard time with all of these like online training programs. I'm going to make myself sound like a hypocrite just a minute, so just bear with me for this. But I really have a hard time with all of these online training programs and these like online famous trainers who tell you you can fix these things at home. I think unless you have impeccable timing and so much experience working with this type of horse, dangerous or problem behaviors are always best left to the professionals. No matter how much you love your horse, and I think this is where like we get into trouble with like Black Beauty and Heartland and Secretariat and Racing Stripes, right? Like TV and movies and books and all these things have told us that if we just love a horse enough, that they'll come around. And that is just not the case. Love is maybe part of the equation, but horses don't really want our love. They want safety. And if you come in and you just love on them all over, but they don't ultimately feel safe, they're not going to relearn these bad behaviors, these bad patterns, and somebody is going to end up getting hurt. And especially the person that comes in and just loves them blindly, that maybe can't see these behaviors brewing or the emotions brewing or the psychological pain or turmoil kind of bubbling up under the surface. If you don't have the trained eye and the very precision timing to be able to see and react to those in the right way at the right time, all you're going to do is make those problems worse. So as harsh as this is a tough love moment. My sister's always called me the queen of tough love. But this is that right now. This is me saying, if you have a horse with these dangerous or problematic behaviors, don't give up on them. But don't just blindly love them either. You need to find a trainer that is experienced and skilled in this particular problem, and make sure it's a trainer that you feel aligned with their values. Because the other thing I see very often is people will put this horse with these problems in with a trainer, and then they give that trainer like 6 weeks or 60 days, and then they don't see the results they want, and they rip the horse out of there and they put it somewhere else. You need to give these methods time to work. For every one bad experience a horse has had, it takes 100 good experiences to rewrite that message in their brain and rewire that pathway. So if you can imagine, takes a lot of time, and dangerous behavior the more dangerous behaviors a horse has picked up over their lifetime, the longer this is going to take to undo. So it's so important and critical that whenever you have a horse with these issues, you find a trainer that you like and trust, and then you give them time to do their job. This is not something like in the movies where it's going to be like an overnight success. This is going to take time to undo all of the bad learning and redo the good learning. And that is why my training program is so slow and thoughtful and based around the horse's calm and relaxed demeanor. If a horse is getting stressed out, I'm done for the day. When a horse is stressed, they're not learning. And yes, some amount of discomfort is okay. Discomfort is where the horse learns. But once they get to fear or fight or flight or stress, no more learning is happening, and we call it, we're done for the day. So the most important thing I can implore you to do if you have a horse with these bad behaviors is find a trainer you trust and work with them. Now, the part I said I was going to be a hypocrite and make myself a hypocrite, and that's what I'm doing right now. The part that I do believe in is that you should keep educating yourself and learning. So there are online programs that I am a big fan of. I actually happen to be coming out with one in just a moment. But my program, the reason it has taken me so long to come up with an online program is because I really wanted it to not be a one size fits all. There are no checkboxes. There's no clear path. And it's not something that's asynchronous. It's not something you can just like buy this course and go do it on your own. This is something that involves support. There's a group. I'm working with you on this program to make sure that you are learning what you need to be able to help your horse. And if your horse has dangerous behaviors, we're not going to be addressing those here. This is for communication. This is for helping your horse to regulate. This is for the spooky horse. This is for the rider that lacks confidence. This is for the horse rider pair that just feel like they're always arguing, they're always bickering, they can never get anything done. This is where that's going to be really powerful. If you come to me and you say, I want to take this program, and my horse strikes, or my horse has taken off bucking and gotten me off several times, or I don't know, my horse pulls back every single time I tie them, no matter what I do, I'm going to redirect you and say, you can absolutely take this program because there's probably some stuff we can do that will help, but you definitely need to be working one-on-one with a trainer in a program, and give that like a year. That's the harsh reality. The other really important thing here to talk about, because I've had this come up for me several times last week, is there's no such thing as a free horse. Anytime somebody says, I have a free horse for you, my first question is why. It's either something physical or something psychological. There's always something wrong. Nobody gets rid of a horse for free. So find out why. And then always work with a trainer, no matter what, because even if you don't see these behaviors in the first couple rides, there's probably something in there that made that horse free. And you want to make sure that you are safe, and that your horse is safe, and that we're setting these horses up to be able to actually overcome these issues and become like a normal, high functioning member of horse society, and not to just be another like problem horse that's cast aside. So these are all the things that I have for you to think about when it comes to problem horses and who takes the blame for horse behavior. Humans are always to blame when it comes to horse behavior. And unfortunately, the horse is the one that has to actually take the accountability to make the change. So when it comes to fixing dangerous or unpredictable or unexpected or explosive behaviors from horses, you need to work with a skilled person. And you also need to come from the perspective and understanding that your horse is doing this as a means of protecting themselves, not because they're bad, not because they're mean, not because they want to hurt you or they're They were up all night plotting how to make your life miserable. Horses just don't think like that. Their brains don't work that way. That is a very human thing. We need to stop anthropomorphizing. We need to stop telling ourselves that our horses are out to get us. I mean, to look at them as horses and treat them as such. So that's a lot for you to think about and unpack. And if you have questions, please leave them in the comments, and more info to come about this groundwork intensive. And there will be other intensives coming. So if groundwork isn't your jam, just wait out because I have more in store. But they will be not one size fits all. They'll be highly tailored to you and your horse and your challenges and your experiences. So keep an ear out for that. Okay, I'll see you next time. Hug your horse for me.